Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our cybersecurity forum hosted by the County of Marin. My name is Jason Balderama. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer, and I'd like to take just a moment to introduce our other panel members. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Nathan LaForce, and I'm the IT Manager with Information Security for County of Marin. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Eva Rasubi. I'm lead security engineer for Marin County.
Maria Lee Camper, I am a security engineer for the County of Marin.
Thanks, everyone. So again, welcome. We're just getting started here. It is October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is a time when we remind everybody the importance of practicing good cybersecurity habits, not just during October, but throughout the whole year. We have a pretty packed agenda, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. Okay, and maybe if someone can give me a cue. Nathan, can you see my?
Yes.
You're good.
Thank you. Okay, so as far as our agenda tonight, I'm going to give a quick program update for the county security program, and then we'll lead into Nathan, who's going to talk about mobile device security, then Ava, who's going to talk about identity theft, and then I'll close with internet security as well as some demonstrations. So just a couple of housekeeping items. We do want this to be an interactive event, so encourage you at any point to use the Zoom Q&A feature to submit your questions. And also, if you'd like to ask something verbally or make a comment, go ahead and use the raise hand feature. And we'll do our best both throughout and at the end to address your questions. So with that, I'm just going to go on. So why do we focus so much on cybersecurity? Well, as we've seen, and especially in the past year, attacks have increased exponentially, particularly ransomware, and the stakes have just getting bigger and bigger. I'm not going to walk through all the events here. I think it's important to call out that we've seen attacks on government agencies, critical infrastructure, and on essential vendor services that really disrupt organizations. And we can see too that unfortunately in some cases, people have chosen to pay the ransom when these things happen. Just a quick note that the county was actually impacted by the first one on this list, the SolarWinds supply chain attack, because at that time we were running a SolarWinds server in our environment. Immediately once it happened, we did take it offline and fortunately found there were no indicators of compromise in our environment, but it was an eye-opener that when these things happen, we just need to be at the ready. So some highlights of the work that was done by the security team last year, support of the November 2020 presidential election. So I think everybody knows how critical the presidential election was. And we took steps to analyze all of the elections platforms and systems, identified some areas where we could do additional security hardening and implemented it. And then on the day that all the polls were open, the security team was at the ready to support any security incidents that may come up, and they did so very successfully. Email security enhancements. So we're always looking at ways to improve the security of our infrastructure. We implemented some new tools to help against anti-spoofing attacks, as well as to be able to remediate when known phishing emails were able to penetrate our defenses and remove those emails before our employees were able to access them. Just again, strengthening our security. Security enhancements for remote workers. Because of COVID-19, as we all know, many organizations, and Marin included, had to shift to the bulk of the workforce moving remote. So we implemented new features to ensure that those systems and platforms that they use remotely were up to date, as well as to ensure that their access to county systems was secure. New security baseline implementation. As part of our assessment of remote work activities and the needs of departments, we identified some areas where we could implement new security controls to, again, standardized across all county departments. The county has 23 unique departments, and each of them have different privacy and security requirements. But that said, there's still certain security baselines that we want to make sure are in place to ensure protection of our data and systems. So even though, say, our Health and Human Services has different requirements with HIPAA, as does, say, our Parks Department that is more public facing, or that does more general services, doesn't involve confidential data, we still need to make sure that all departments are equally secure, and started that work over the last year. And then security awareness. So one of the things that we stress in our county security program is that security is everyone's responsibility. It's not just about monitoring the technical systems. So made sure that we continued with our ongoing communications with our newsletters, training exercises, and also having our annual required security training courses that all employees take. So one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that we've been able to expand the county's resources and expertise, not just within County of Marin, but also to some of our community partners. So last year, in response to the Marin Civil Grand Jury report about cybersecurity issues in Marin, the county formed the Marin Information Security Collaboration, which you can see we started focused with the cities and towns, but later, just within this year, have expanded membership to some of our community partners, such as Canal Alliance, College Marin, FireSafe Marin, Marin Water District, and San Rafael City Schools. We, the county, provide our security newsletters to all these agencies so they can also get the same information and best practices as do our employees, as well as alerting them when our threat intelligence feeds tell us that there are issues that need to be addressed, and providing security best practice documentation and resources for all their employees. Just with the few agencies that were added, we were able to double our newsletter distribution in the last year, which again, I'm very proud that we're able to do outreach to additional agencies. And looking ahead for this year, we're going to continue the implementation of the new security baselines. There's been a big focus on ransomware, and while we did update our incident response plans last year and have good processes in place, we definitely want to make sure that if, knock on wood, hopefully the county will not fall victim, but if for some reason we do, that we're ready to respond if a ransomware incident were to occur. And lastly, expanding our cybersecurity resources on the county website. So right now, we definitely have a very minimal public presence when it comes to our security website. However, looking at how we expanded recently, again, to the Marin government agencies and community partners, the next phase is we want to do more to make these resources available to you, the Marin residents, for security best practices. So hopefully, starting next year, we will have a broader presence that has resources for you, as well as an option to subscribe to the county's security newsletter, where we offer best practices and tips. So those are just some quick highlights. And with that, I'm going to transition to Nathan, who's going to give some tips, or actually, I'm sorry, before I do that, I should check, do we have any hands raised or any questions that have come up? If not, then I'm going to go ahead and Nathan, take it away.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, as a general note, the topics I'm going to be talking about in terms of best practices with mobile device security are general in nature. They're going to apply to your use of the device at home, at work, or traveling, and they're not specific to a device either. So just keep that in mind as we go through the next couple minutes of my talk. Could I get the next slide, please? So before I get into the topics of how to recognize if your device might have been hacked or ways you can protect your device, I'd like to do something a little different and start with a story about an unlucky traveler, Bill, and his new cell phone. The idea is that as you listen to this story, try to see if you can identify any of the security lapses and what the consequences might be. As Bill has his quick trip and how he uses his phone. At the end of that, we can compare notes about what he might have done better. It's a fairly quick narrative, so it won't take more than a few minutes, and then we can talk about the other topics, and then at the end, I'll be concluding with a demo of kind of a fast-paced demo of how a device can be hacked fairly quickly. So with that, I'm going to begin with the narrative. Here we go. Finally, his vacation was about to begin. Bill sat at the departure gate for his flight and ran through all the things he needed to do. Did I miss anything, he thought? He must have dozed off for just a few minutes when he woke. And when he woke, he reached for his new cell phone and it wasn't there. What the heck? He searched for his pockets and his carry-on luggage, but no luck, no phone. How could this happen to me? Excuse me, does this belong to you? A stranger had approached and was holding his new cell phone. Wonderful, he said, and warmly thanked the stranger for returning his phone. Bill figured he had been pretty lucky that a conscientious person had returned the phone. Others might not have. He decided it was a good time to password protect his new phone, and he kept the passcode fairly simple since he did not want to forget it. When he got back from his trip, he planned to install some anti-malware software on his phone. The flight was fairly uneventful, and he powered off his phone as required during the flight. Upon arriving at his destination, he had a few minutes to wait as the luggage was unloaded. He realized he needed to transfer some money to make sure he could cover his debit card withdrawals. Since his carrier appeared to have no service here, he decided to use the local Wi-Fi that was available at the airport. The Wi-Fi should be okay, otherwise the airport would have shut it down, right? It only took a few minutes to access his bank, log in, and make the transfer. Soon his luggage arrived and he was off to his hotel on the beaches for a few days. While on vacation, Bill had been really enjoying himself, and with his new phone was able to text and keep in touch with his friends and loved ones at home. He took a lot of selfies and he shared those online. His phone seemed to need a complete recharge at the end of the day. That seemed a bit odd. The day before his departure, he did get a text with a link from his bank. He opened the link and it appeared that someone attempted to access his bank accounts, and he needed to immediately log in to verify his identity. Wow, he thought, cybercrime is everywhere. And he proceeded to log into his bank account, where he was presented with an official looking page that his account was now secure. Nothing more was needed. That was close, he thought, and gave little thought to it. On his last day, Bill decided to withdraw some cash from the hotel ATM for the trip home. His withdrawal was denied due to insufficient funds. What? Just then, he got a text from his mom asking why he was sending emails to family members, asking to be wired money. Was everything okay? End of story. Okay, so it ended up being a fairly unlucky trip for Bill. Does anyone want to venture with pointing out any of the things that he might have done wrong, such that his bank account was apparently cleaned out, and someone was using his email account to send out requests for money? Okay, we can check the chat, and if not, we can just move to the next page and kind of go over some of those items as kind of a follow-up on the story.
So just a quick reminder to folks in the audience, at any point, you're welcome to use the Zoom raise hand feature if you want to chime in with a comment or question. And we'll also be monitoring that Q&A if you have any questions throughout. So Nathan, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so what went wrong? Well, number one, he lost possession of his device. So we don't know exactly how long he lost it for since he was dozing off, but we don't really have any idea what this person might have done to his device. We know that he installed the passcode protection after it was returned to him, so he was basically an unprotected device. That person could have stolen information, could have installed malware, we don't know. So it was, a really important thing to remember is as soon as you get your new device, you're going to want to sit down and really try to secure it as early as possible. And also, you really don't, I don't want to make people paranoid, but you don't want to give your device out to friends, not because they're going to be try to, use it against the device against you or install stuff knowingly, but they may unwittingly install stuff or, in some way compromise the device. So it's just always a good idea, passcode, protect your device, and always maintain possession of it. That's going to be one of your first points of security. So I think I covered some of the stuff already. He didn't have malware installed. He put in a simple passcode. You want to make it lengthy if you can. Then also he's using the unsecure Wi-Fi at the airport, which is always a bad idea, particularly for a financial transaction. You just don't know what's on the other end of some of these access points. It could be someone who's set up a malicious Wi-Fi connection point, and they're stealing as much information as they can, redirecting you to sites that you don't want to go to. Just a bad idea. You want to make sure you're using legitimate, password protected access point for Wi-Fi. And then I think I've touched on this other stuff. He was entered in banking credentials, right? When he got the texting fish, he got the texting link that was claiming his account was being accessed or attempted to be accessed by someone who was unauthorized. You want to be suspicious of links like that, particularly when they ask you to do something immediately. They're trying to get you to act without thinking about it, and that's precisely what he did. So one other point was he was publishing, when he's sending, sharing his information about his trip online, he's also advertising the fact that he's out of town. So it may be that some bad actor, excuse me, knows where he lives and decides it's a good time to try to burgle him or something like that. So just a lot of things that he did he was fairly careless with, and you want to take care that you don't do some of these same things. Okay, so how do we recognize device hacking? Not all of these are necessarily a 100% indicator that your device has been hacked. But obviously, if new apps appear that you did not install, that's a clear indication that something's going amiss. You should always be in control of the apps that exist on your device, and you should always make sure that when you're installing them, if these devices are asking for during the installation process, if they're asking for lots of access to your phone, to your camera or your geolocation, you want to consider whether or not you really want to give them the app this type of permission, because it's always a best policy that the least amount of information that you divulge is usually the best. So just be cautious with apps and the permissions that you give to apps. I'll just go through some of these kind of quickly. One of the things that was pointed out in the story was that at the end of the day, his phone was in need of a recharge. So malicious apps may run a lot of cycles on the device, so they may consume a lot of and more extra power. So they may be needing a recharge much sooner than you expect. So if you think that might be happening, you can look at your data usage to see if stuff's happening that maybe that shouldn't be. If you're sending and receiving text messages, that's another case scenario that we saw in the story where actually emails were being sent out on his behalf. Someone possibly had compromised his email account and was trying to be wired money. So you want to periodically check the sent list to make sure that the emails being sent are indeed ones that you sent. And then another one to call out is the pop-ups that can appear. Pop-ups are, if they're just seemingly showing up a lot when you're browsing on your device, it could be an indication that you have a compromised browser, some malware, and you should be always, as with non-mobile devices, always be cautious about clicking on a link. You want to make sure you know it's a legitimate link, because links can lead to malware downloads, or they can lead to sites that you don't want to go to. Ways to protect your phone. You do want to install anti-malware on your phone. There's any number of legitimate vendors out there, from McAfee to Norton, Symantec, that have anti-malware you can install on your device. Don't open text links or email or browser links unless you know that they are legitimate. Don't have automatic Wi-Fi connections. You want to control your connections to access points. Don't use free Wi-Fi in airports, and don't do fund transfer using your phone, particularly with things like free Wi-Fi. So that's something you want to be careful of. And of course, password protect your phone. Make sure that only you, as the authorized user, are able to use it. Okay, why don't we keep going? Okay, this is just a quick hacking demo, and from YouTube that I thought was kind of interest. It's less than a couple of minutes. So with that, I'll sign off, and thank you very much for attending our webinar.
In this demonstration, you will see how easy it is to hack an iPhone in under 30 seconds. What you see on the left-hand side is the screen of a hacker who is trying to lure a victim to connect to a free Wi-Fi by installing a malicious profile. On the right is a fully patched iOS device running the latest software. The victim is sent a link to a URL and they follow the instructions. Everything looks legitimate and verified. Even with Apple's extra precautions, they enter their device password without suspecting malicious intent. The hacker skillfully guides the victim to trust the X-Free Wi-Fi certificate. Most security-aware people would not do this, but when it comes to the general employees, 9 out of 10 would obediently follow the instructions. After doing this, the victim goes back to the browser and is happy to receive free internet. The hacker is also happy to gain control over yet another device. For example, this is not the real homepage of TechCrunch, but the victim doesn't know as they are reading what the hackers want them to read. Social networking is a big deal these days, so let's take an example of one such site, LinkedIn. Let's say the victim opens their LinkedIn app, which uses encrypted communications. As soon as the app is open, the hacker captures the session cookie and can now open the victim's session on their own computer, with full access and control over their messages, contacts, posts, everything. The last thing I want to show you in this type of attack is the threat to email communication. Unlike LinkedIn, the user may not even need to open the Mail app if it's set to regularly check for email. The hacker can easily see past sent emails, but more importantly, he can also capture the email name and password, intentionally hidden here for the demo. These credentials are the lifeblood of any organization and the holy grail for hackers. To test your knowledge of mobile security, go to the following link for a quick quiz.
Okay, thank you.
And so real quick, before we transition to you, Ava, I just want to pause for a moment. And again, any members of the audience, if you have a question about the mobile device security presentation Nathan gave, feel free to raise your hand or send us a message in the Q&A. And we're certainly happy to take questions at the end as well. So not seeing any, I guess, Ava, over to you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, I talk about identity theft, what identity theft means, and how do people fall victim, and I share some stories, and we talk about if they get your information, what they can do with your information, and how do you know if you're a victim of identity theft, and how to report the identity theft, and how to prevent identity theft. Next slide. So what is identity theft? Identity theft means stealing someone's information like a credit card number or driver's license to commit a crime. So just the top country for identity theft is Mexico, about 44%, and the primary source of identity theft is Russia. Next slide. So according to the Federal Trade Commission in year 2021, identity theft is #1 report to Federal Trade Commission. Next slide. So identity theft incident by category. So as you see, credit card fraud is #1, loan or lease fraud is #2, employment or tax-related fraud is #3. And for your information, the US has the highest number of data breaches in the world. Next slide. So it's really hard to catch identity theft. And according to the study, only 1 in 700 identity thefts get arrested because we have 2 reasons. One is the non-violent nature of the crime. And the other reason is most of them are not US based. So it's really hard to catch them. Next slide. So how do people fall victim? So it happens different ways to get victims. So I explain that different things may happen to people fall victim. So one of them is data breaches. So it happens when you're working with a third-party company, or some, for example, your insurance company, your credit card company, your email provider. So if they data breach through the third-party company, they can compromise your information and your password. So one of the things that could happen to people is through third-party vendors or companies. Their source is the dark web. It's a place to sell information to hackers. So many hackers, they can get information from dark web. The other thing is phishing. So hackers are trying to get information through email. So they send fake emails to people to pretend it's a login ID to Microsoft or Amazon, and pretend they're offering something free. And as soon as you log into the fake website, they get username and password that compromise your account. The other thing is unsecure internet connection. Any unsecure Wi-Fi, your public computers can install some kind of software to get your information. As soon as you type any sensitive information, they can get this information. So Jason will talk about internet security later. Another thing is mail theft. So they also can get access to your mailbox and then get your mails, and any sensitive information you have, they can get this information through your mail. And the other thing is weak data protection. So if you are not protecting your data, you're not encrypting your data, you are not using a strong password to get access to your data, it's really easy for a hacker to guess your password or compromise your account. The other thing is fake phone calls. So they can call you and pretend they are calling from IRS, and they ask for social security number and other phone calls. So I have a real story for you guys. So it happened to one of our employees. He received a call from a person who pretended he is calling from Chase Bank and told our employee, your bank account has been hacked and you need to transfer all your money to another account to protect your money. So they asked this person to go to Chase Bank and get all his money and wire this money to them so they can protect his money. So this person went to Chase Bank. Of course, they told him it's a fake phone call. The other thing is a text message scam. So you may receive some text message that shows you won $500 Amazon gift cards. So please log into your Amazon account. So it's a fake website, and as soon as you log in, they get your information. The other thing is social media scam. So hackers, they can steal another person's identity and send you a friend request and start communicating with you, and then build trust. And after they build trust, they start asking for money or information. So it's another way to get information. So next slide, please. So if you have any stories about yourself or any friends and are victim of identity theft, and you want to share with us, please raise your hand and share with us.
Okay, well, we'll give a minute for people if they want to raise their hand, but in the meantime, I'll share a story of my own. So I think oftentimes people think of me and my role, and they just assume that I know all the best practices. I'm one step ahead every time, and maybe because of that, I'm immune to these kinds of things. But that's actually not true. Not that I can recall any action I took that would have led to this, but it was probably, let's say, 5+ years ago that it was tax time, and I got a phone call because somebody had tried to file a tax return under my name. And it was flagged because for the past several years before that, I had filed a joint return with my wife. And this one was suspicious because it was filed as an individual, even though it was my name and other information. So again, have no idea how they obtain that information, because I think that I consider myself strong with my security habits, but I did enroll in additional protection from then on, because you can, when you file your tax returns, have a security PIN that gets assigned each year, so that when you do your filing, in addition to just providing your name and other personal information, you also need to have that PIN in order to submit. So anyway, that's just something that happened to me. And again, if it can happen to me, I think it can happen to anybody.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. And I'm not seeing any volunteers, although we might get some later, but probably we'll just move on from there.
Next slide. So what can identity theft cost you? So if they get your information, what they can do with your information? They can open credit card accounts in your name. They can steal your tax refund. They can access your bank account. They can access to your social media account. They can access your paycheck. They can get medical services under your name. They can rent or buy properties. Next slide. So how do you know if you have been a victim of identity theft? So different ways you can find out if you are a victim. So one of the things is if you receive any statement or bills for accounts you never opened, or you receive unexpected denied credit card apply, or any unauthorized bank transaction when you check your bank account and see, oh, this is the purchase I never did. Or usually credit card companies, they give you a call if they see any unusual activity from unusual location or a large purchase, so you notice something is wrong. And the other thing is notification that the tax return has been filed under your name. Sometimes you get unauthorized authentication message for your account you don't recognize. So sometimes you're receiving a notification from Google that shows somebody is trying to log into your email from this location, from this device. And then the other thing is you may receive some medical bills that you never, you never had this service, but you got the bill from medical provider. Next slide. So if you are a victim of identity theft, what you need to do? So the first thing you need to do, you have to change all your passwords. So before you do anything else, you just change all your bank account, all your email password, all your third-party application you are using. So the best practice is change all your password, the first step. And then you call your credit card companies and let them know you are a victim of identity theft. You can sign up for a credit monitoring service. Many credit card companies, they offer it for free. You can monitor your credit. Use identity theft protection services is also free or paid services available. You can also report the crime to the police or Marion County Sheriff Department. But the best thing to do for reporting is report identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission. You can do online. going to identitytheft.gov or by calling this number. So the next slide is a 1-minute short video that shows how to report identity theft to Federal Trade Commission. So next slide.
In today's connected world, personal information sometimes falls into the wrong hands, and that can lead to identity theft. It might start with an unfamiliar charge on your credit card. A business might not accept your check, or a debt collector might call you about a bill that isn't yours. You're not alone. Identity theft can happen to anyone. Stay calm. Visit identitytheft.gov to report it and get a personal recovery plan. IdentityTheft.gov helps you create an identity theft report. This report proves to businesses that someone stole your identity and makes it easier to fix problems caused by identity theft. To create an identity theft report, you can file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. IdentityTheft.gov guides you through each step of the recovery process. You can generate the letters and forms you need, track your progress, and keep detailed records of people you've talked to. No matter what your identity theft situation is, IdentityTheft.gov can help, because recovering from identity theft is easier with a plan.
Okay.
In today's
Next slide. Yeah, thank you. And then how we can prevent identity theft. So the first thing is trust by verify. So so you don't give your password to anyone before you trust the person, and make sure that they're calling from the company they're pretending they're calling. So you have to verify the person and the company that are calling you if they're asking for any sensitive information. Use a strong password. Make sure you are using really strong password. Use a passphrase for your password, and use different password for different accounts. So don't use the same password for different accounts, because if one account compromised, other accounts make compromise using the same password. You can use password management tools. We have some free password management tools and paid one. I'm using LastPass for my personal password management. The good thing is was password management. You can save all your password in one place, and they are all encrypted, and you don't need to remember all passwords. So you have everything in one place, and it's encrypted. I added this share with care. So make sure if you are sharing any information, as I said, verify the source we are asking for and the reason they're asking. I always tell our employees, don't share your password even with the IT professional people or help desk, because everything you're using, the password, it's unique to yourself. So never share your password with anyone. Collect your mail daily. Make sure you check your mailbox every day. Review your credit card and bank account statement regularly. Shred sensitive documents. If you are receiving any sensitive mail, make sure you shred information. Review your credit report annually. I do every 6 months, but it's recommended to do annually. Install antivirus on all your personal and mobile devices. So make sure you install the latest version of the antivirus and update your antivirus and protect all your personal devices with antivirus. Make sure if you can use enable two-factor authentication to access to your email, your bank account, or any other sensitive information you have. Make sure you have another layer of security to protect your identity. And then the other thing is, if you have really old computer or mobile devices you want to donate or sell in eBay, make sure you wipe all the information before you donate or sell computers or mobile devices. Thank you. And I think it's the last slide, and I pass it to Jason.
Thanks, Eva. Yes, that is the last slide here. So before we transition to our final topic of internet security, I'll just pause again, see if there's any questions from our audience. So again, feel free, use the Zoom Q&A feature to submit your questions, or use the raise hand and we'll gladly call on you if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. And again, we'll take questions at the end as well. I am not seeing any at the moment. So with that, I think we'll move on. So I'm going to talk to you about internet security. And I know how much we all love PowerPoint, but I assure you, I only have a single slide for this. So I'm going to move to that now. And real quick, before I dive into internet security, I just want to say that we recognize that email continues to be the #1 attack vector. People who try to get you to click on links, open attachments, visit their websites, to steal your information, or to compromise your accounts. Now that said, part of the reason why we're not going in depth on that tonight is prior to these events, we did poll our employees and ask, what are the topics of most interest to you? What would you like to hear about? We kind of beat email to death here at the county as far as information and training. So that's why we're doing things a little differently. However, if you are interested in learning more about email security and steps you can take, it is a topic that we covered in our cybersecurity forum last year. And if you look on the county's YouTube channel, you'll find that last year's event was recorded and you can view information there. So with that, I'm going to dive into internet security. So there's some best practices here, and this is just kind of a list of things, and I'm going to dive in actually to a demonstration in a moment. But checking for secure HTTPS connections. So when you go to websites, you can see whether you're connecting securely using HTTPS or which is encrypted versus an HTTP connection, which is not. And difference being, of course, if it is not a secure connection, anyone else who is on the same network as you or somehow gains access could potentially see information that you're passing from your computer or device to the website, which could include things such as usernames, passwords, and account information. Be wary of internet downloads. So you may be tempted at times to install the latest game, or maybe you get an email and someone says to, oh, click here and download this video, but you need to be very careful because when you download things, you're opening yourself up to potential risk. Inspect search engine results carefully. I'll go through a demonstration on that, as well as the ads. And with that, actually, I'm just going to stop the PowerPoint share and transition. So bear with me for just a moment. And again, feel free at any point to submit your questions. Oh, actually, I see there is a hand up. So before I do my screen share, Ali, you had a question or comment? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Ali? Okay, it looks like maybe you're having some difficulty.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, thank you for your good presentation. All of the presentation were very good. Thanks a lot. I have a question. What is your recommendation for password management tools? Would you please give some guidance for us?
Yeah, so I will say that I'm not necessarily in a position to recommend any specific vendors. That said, I will say that I do have familiarity with LastPass, and Ava, I believe that's also the one that you have used, is that correct?
Yes.
So I find that solution to be very easy to use, and yeah, it definitely keeps information secure. And to Ava's point earlier, it's something where you don't need to then remember every single unique password you create for every account you use. So I would encourage you to go and look at reviews and look at features of the various vendors. But there are a lot of good solutions out there. So hope that answers your question. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to dive into a demonstration here. So I'll go back to share screen. Okay, and hopefully you can see this. So, yes, okay, good. So everyone probably recognizes this. I'm running Google Chrome, and it's just going to Google's website. So first I'm going to demonstrate the incognito mode, which is sometimes known as private browsing, depending on what you're using. So I'm just going to click on this little indicator here and say new incognito window. So the incognito or private browsing, what does it do? Well, you may know that when you visit websites, and I'm sorry, let me zoom that in a little, you can see that better. When you open it, it actually gives you a little description of what it means. So generally when you do your browsing, you can store usernames and passwords that get passed through to websites. There may be cookies and other items that are dropped on your machine so that, for example, if you go to Amazon.com, the next time you open your browser after you've rebooted your device, Amazon.com still knows that it's you who's doing the shopping because there's tracking information that's been put on your device. So what this incognito mode does is basically any activities that happen in this session, when you're done and you've closed everything out, that information gets wiped. So the next time you open a session, there's no tracking data that will be left. Now I will say, depending on what network you use, that doesn't mean that your internet activity is completely invisible. Certainly, there's data that's still tracked by your internet service provider. If you're on a corporate network, then there may be controls in place where they monitor activity that way. But this is just a method, depending on what you're doing, where the incognito or private features may be of benefit. Particularly, I use it a lot when I'm just doing research, because when I'm looking up various articles and sites, I never know exactly what might come as far as search results. One of the things I talked about earlier was checking for secure connections. So just as an example, I'm going to go to marincounty.org. That's our website. And you'll notice that there's this little padlock up here, and I apologize, you might not be able to see that too well on the Zoom, but it is there. If I actually click up in here, it actually shows me that it is an HTTPS connection. So again, that indicates that the connection between your computer and the website is secure, and data that you pass will be encrypted and is not trackable by other people who may be trying to sniff it out. So obviously very important, especially when you're entering credentials or accessing things like your bank information. So when talking about downloads, I'm going to show you actually when you're downloading something, a way to check if it's safe. So still on the county website, I'm going to jump over to forms. And you'll see there's a variety of forms that I have available here. Some of them are online forms and others, I believe, are PDFs. So I'm just going to find okay, so this aircraft property statement, that's a PDF file. Now, if I were to just click on this link, it will likely open it right in my browser. And I don't necessarily want to do that because I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into. So first I'm going to right click and save it. And I will put it in my downloads folder. So now that I've saved this file on my computer, what I want to do is actually scan it for malware. So you may have, like Nathan said earlier, Norton or McAfee or any number of solutions. You might also have just the Microsoft built-in Defender. What I'm going to do is actually show you another website that checks files against multiple engines, and that's VirusTotal. So I go to virustotal.com. And this is actually a very useful tool. And again, this is just out there available for anyone to use. You can check files, website links. So I'm going to choose a file. And there's the file I just downloaded from the county website. I'm going to double click it and confirm. So what it's going to do is actually analyze this file against multiple antivirus engines. And you'll see the results are coming in. I'm going to zoom this in again. And the green check marks do indicate that this is probably a safe file and that I would be confident in opening it. So if we look at all the results, no malware was detected here. Now I will say some of the common email scams that we see are someone will send you a PDF file, but then embedded within that is nothing more than just a link to go out to another website. So just one word of caution that even if a file is detected as clean, you still have to be careful of the contents because it's not that the file itself has malware, but you might redirect somewhere else where malware can be installed. So that's a little bit on downloads. One of the other things I mentioned was inspecting search engine results. I want to actually demonstrate one other thing which has to do with privacy. So just getting back to Google, I'm going to do a quick search. Let's say it's Valentine's Day and I want to order some flowers for my wife. So I'm going to do a quick search for flowers. So you might notice that immediately after I did that search, I got this little prompt here. It says, Google wants to know my location. Now, I understand why Google wants to know my location. They think, oh, I'm looking for flowers. And if I know where this person is, then I can tailor search results to local florists, or I can steer them towards potential websites that are more relevant to the area they're in. Now, these kinds of prompts about location, now I can tell that this actually came from the browser and it's here, but there may be malicious websites that have very similar pop-ups. So you have to exercise extreme caution when you see things like this, because even though like in this case, it says allow or block, and in this case, I don't really care if Google knows where I am. I'll figure out who my local florist is. However, if if you do see these kinds of prompts, clicking the allow or block buttons might not actually be doing the intended behavior, because what malicious sites will do is they put these pop-ups and things to trick you into clicking when you think you're doing one action, but in truth, you're doing something that could be compromising your machine. So another quick demonstration, just one last one. So I did my search for flowers. I'm going to go back. Now I mentioned that you need to be aware of ads and windows and prompts and things. So one example, I'm going to do a search for screensavers, because let's say maybe I've gotten tired of the screensaver that's on my machine. I want to get something new. So I'm going to just look at the various results and let's see. I can find, maybe I'll go to the next page. All right, you know what? I'm going to actually revise my search and say free screensavers. Here we go. 1,498 screensavers for Microsoft Windows for free. So sounds good, right? I will take a look, and bear in mind that I'm still in that incognito mode. So actions I take here will not be safe for later. So you might notice a few things on this website. So there's a lot of different buttons I can click here, and it's not necessarily clear what that's going to do. Maybe it's a way for me to download that free screensaver. But you see here, like it says, start download, just easy 1, 2, 3 to get this Wave browser, which is something I didn't even ask for. If I go down a little further, fast, light, and easy to use, protect your PC from viruses, download now. So these are exactly the kinds of ads and things that could get you into trouble. So you'll notice that this like scrolling bar here, it says avast.com, which is a known antivirus provider. However, as I hover over the link, I don't know how well you can see it, but it starts with Google Ads, and then it just gives this very long string of unrecognizable combination of characters. So if I click on this, I don't know if I'm actually going to Avast. I might be going somewhere that is going to actually infect my machine rather than protect it. So again, be very careful the sites you visit, things you might potentially download. The safe route, of course, if you know the vendor and product you're looking for, is to just go straight to their website and download. So on the subject of antivirus, like if I were to go back and say search for Microsoft Defender. So you notice that some of these do go to Microsoft, like this one here, but the further I go along, I might get a download prompt from somewhere else, maybe on like the next page. And here I'm starting to get other results like AVG, there's Avast, but anyway, just point being, make sure you inspect those search results carefully, that you're going to the site that you actually think you're going to. And when in doubt, certainly using the incognito or private feature can help to protect yourself, but just be very cautious with the sites that you visit. So that's really all I was going to show in this demo. We do have just a few minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and pause again and ask if any of our members of the audience has a question. Feel free to raise your hand or submit through the Q&A. Just take a moment and see if anyone had anything. Okay, and I'm not seeing any, and we're just about at 6 o'clock. So I think with that, that will conclude our event today. I want to thank you all for joining our cybersecurity forum. I hope that you found the information useful. And just a reminder, this event is being recorded and will be available on the county's YouTube site, YouTube channel. And if you do think of a question or something you want to ask us later, you can reach us via email at security@marincounty.org. And with that, I wish you all well, be safe, and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.